Hello friends, I am Vasist. If you want a deep understanding and visualization of all the dimensions starting from zeroth dimension to the 11th dimension, then you have come to the right place. As you will continue watching this video, you will understand what are dimensions, how many dimensions are there according to different theories, how we can visualize higher dimensions, and what is the geometrical structure of higher dimensions. In this video, I will also explain why we are not able to perceive higher dimensions, although we might be living in higher dimensions unknowingly, and what supernatural powers a being of higher dimensions would possess. So please watch the video till the end, as most of your questions related to dimensions will be answered in this video. First of all, let's understand what we mean by dimensions. Dimension of a point is defined as the minimum number of coordinates that are needed to specify that point in it. For example, to specify a sheet of paper, we need two coordinates only, length and width. Therefore, it is a two-dimensional object. But to specify a cube in space, three coordinates are needed. These are length, width, and height. Therefore, we call it a three-dimensional object. Now we will discuss how many dimensions are there in the universe. According to classical physics, there are three dimensions of space: length, width, and height. And one dimension is of time. String theory requires 10 dimensions, but as per M theory, total number of dimensions are 11. In bosonic string theory, space-time is 26-dimensional. But now the question arises, if there are so many dimensions in existence, then why we are not able to perceive them? Why we cannot feel the presence of higher dimensions? Actually, we might be living in higher dimensions without being aware of it. But because of the limitations of our brain and senses, we may not be able to perceive them. According to some researches, extra dimensions may be curled up at extremely small scales. This scale is so small that we cannot see them with our experiments based on current technologies. As we live in a three-dimensional world, it is very hard for our three-dimensional brain to visualize higher dimensions. There is a process known as compactification where higher dimensions are curled in on themselves. On changing our reference frame and going into microscopic level, we will find higher dimensions. Let me explain it with the help of a simple example. Suppose we are looking at a rope from some distance, which is tied between two rocks. From this distance, we will see only one dimension of rope, that is length. Now imagine that an ant is crawling onto the rope. So from the reference frame of ant, the rope is at least two-dimensional, as it can see its breadth and thickness also along with its length. The ant can also feel the grooves and roughness of the rope. If we go to microscopic level and see from the reference frame of atoms, then we will see a whole new world of three-dimensional atoms having solid nucleus and electrons revolving around it in three-dimensional space. On going further into the microscopic level of strings inside the atom, we will see that strings are vibrating in 11 dimensions. Everything in this universe is made up of tiny vibrating loops known as strings according to string theory. So now you can understand how we can find higher dimensions at the microscopic level. Friends, now I will discuss every dimension starting from the 0 dimension to the 11th dimension. Zeroth dimension. There is no length, no width, and no height of an object in the 0th dimension. Example of 0th dimension is a point. Let's imagine someone is living in the 0th dimension, then he would neither have any body nor any shape. He cannot move in any direction like forward, reverse, up or down. 0th dimension is the basis of all the higher dimensions. First dimension. An object in first dimension has only one dimension, that is length. A straight line is an example of first dimensional object. We can get a straight line by joining 2 points. A one-dimensional being can move only in a straight line. It cannot move in other dimensions like left, right, and upward or downward directions. Second dimension. Second dimensional objects, also known as two-dimensional or 2D objects, are flat shapes. Some common examples of two-dimensional shapes are squares and triangles. As the name denotes, two-dimensional objects are made up of two dimensions, length and width. There is no third dimension of height or depth. Therefore, these objects are flat figures having non-zero area but zero volume. If someone is living in two dimensions, then he would be able to move only on a surface without being able to move in up or down directions. He will not have any idea of the third dimension, that is, the height. Can you imagine what will happen when a three-dimensional object enters into the world of two-dimensional beings? Let's understand it with an interesting example. Suppose a two-dimensional being present in his two-dimensional space is watching a three-dimensional apple entering into his flatland world on a vertical axis perpendicular to the plane of the flatlander. But as we know, a two-dimensional being cannot see a three-dimensional object. So how would that three-dimensional apple look like from the frame of reference of that flatlander? He cannot see the apple until it touches his two-dimensional plane, as it is above his flatland, and he cannot see anything which is above or below his two-dimensional plane world. But as the apple just touches the plane, he will see a dot, which is nothing but the point of contact of the apple to the plane. Now, as the apple goes below his plane world, he sees a circle growing in size on his plane, and the size of the circle is maximum when half of the apple is above and half is below the plane, and then the circle size becomes smaller and smaller, and then a point, and finally it disappears for him. It means the two-dimensional being sees only the cross-sectional view of the apple that is cut by his two-dimensional plane at that moment. So for a person living in a particular dimension, objects of higher dimensions suddenly may appear from nowhere, may change shapes and size and then disappear into space. It may appear supernatural or kind of magic for a lower dimensional being, but for that higher dimensional object, it's nothing special. It just moves in dimensions that are not perceived by him. Just by doubling the points, we go into the next higher dimension. As you can see here, from the 0th dimension, we entered into the first dimension by changing the number of points from 1 to 2. Therefore, to go into second dimension, we need to double the points, and here we have 4 points and we enter into the second dimension. Third dimension. On adding one more dimension to two-dimensional objects, we enter into the world of 3 dimensions. This third dimension is of height. Therefore, to represent 3-dimensional or 3D objects, we need 3 coordinates: length, width, and height. As we have already discussed that two-dimensional objects are plane figures, therefore have zero volume. But three-dimensional objects are solid objects and therefore have non-zero volume. Some common daily life examples of three-dimensional things are balls, chair, car, and we humans. We live in a three-dimensional world. This is the reason we can move in forward, reverse, up and down directions easily, as we have full control over the 3 dimensions of space. Fourth dimension. Time is considered as the fourth dimension. A 4-dimensional being can move freely in time dimension. It would have full control over time. He would be able to move in any desired direction in time, past or future. Suppose you are living in a 4-dimensional world, then you would be able to go to a certain point in time in past and change your decisions. But we humans are 3-dimensional beings, therefore have full control over the 3 dimensions of space, but we are forced to move only in one direction in time, the forward direction. So I am taking here an example of 4th dimension, and I will use the same example to explain you the 5th and 6th dimensions also. And this is very interesting example. Suppose this is the timeline of your life, and these are the 2 points in time. T1 is the present time of your life, and T2 is the time point in past where you made the decision to get married. As we are three-dimensional beings, so we do not have control over the time dimension. We can only control three dimensions. Therefore, we cannot go back in time and change this decision of our marriage. But if we are fourth dimensional beings, as we are discussing here fourth dimension, then it is possible for us to go back in time from time t1 to point t2 on our this timeline and change the decision to marry another girl. You may change your decision and you can marry another girl at this point and start your new life, start your new timeline. But one thing you should notice here is that since no parallel worlds exist in the fourth dimension, therefore we can live with only one wife at a time. It means we cannot have two wives, or we cannot have two worlds, separate worlds, where we are living with two wives. Okay, if we change the decision of marrying a girl, then this life will be over. Okay, no parallel universes. But if we consider the fourth dimension from the geometrical point of view, then hypercube is a four-dimensional object. It is also called a tesseract. The relationship between a hypercube and a cube is same as that of cube and square. So in simple terms, a hypercube or tesseract is four-dimensional analog of the cube. As a cube has 6 square faces, in the same way, hypersurface of a tesseract consists of 8 cubical cells. In the third dimensional structure, we had a cube, therefore we had 8 points. Therefore, to get the next higher dimension, that is the fourth dimension, we have to double the number of points. So we have 16 points. Fifth dimension. A person living in fifth dimension can control time in different ways. A fifth dimensional being can move either in past or future as per his wish. He would have all the powers that are possessed by a fourth dimensional being, but he would also be able to be present at different locations at the same time. It would also be possible for him to do many jobs and have different hobbies simultaneously. Actually, parallel universes exist in this dimension. Therefore, in the fifth dimension, you can have careers in different fields. In this case, you will have another versions of yourself in parallel universes who would be living their lives independently. They would have separate timelines for the parallel universes. Their lives in different parallel universes will be based on cause and effect. It means their lives will change as per the decisions made by your self versions in different universes. But one limitation of fifth dimension is that you cannot meet your self version directly using shortcuts to another timeline of parallel universe. I will explain all these things using our example of changing marriage decision. Parallel worlds exist in the fifth dimension, but one limitation of this dimension, as I have already discussed, is there is no shortcuts between the timelines. Okay, I will explain you. Here is the old example. T1 time, present time, T2 the where we change the decision, and in the fifth dimension we can go back in time at time T2, change the decision of marrying another girl, and we will have our new wife. So this is another timeline, but the main difference is here we can have both worlds. We can have parallel worlds where in the one world we are living with our new wife, and in the old world or in another parallel universe we are living with our old wife. Okay, this is that timeline and this is new wife timeline. Okay, so two parallel universes going differently, and we can live with both the wives at the same time. But there is one limitation with this. What is this? If you are at this point with new wife, you have two versions, actually two separate versions of yourself in these two worlds, and one version having this new wife. You want to meet your another self version in another world who is living with the old wife. You cannot go directly to this point. Okay, you cannot meet it. So what is the way they can use? There is no shortcut. Suppose this man who married to new wife wants to meet this. What he can do, he would go past in time at time T2 where the decision was made. Then on this timeline it is possible for him to meet his self version. He can see himself with the old wife, and both of these versions can meet with each other. So now we understand what is the basic limitation. You cannot meet directly your self version in this fifth dimensional universe. Okay, I can make it more interesting, the fifth dimension example, by extending this example. Suppose you changed the decision. This is the point of changing the marriage decision, and you started with this new timeline. This was your old timeline. This is also living, that your another version is living in this world with the old wife, and you have created a new timeline and you are living with new wife also. Both are living simultaneously. At some point in time on this timeline, you decided to have a baby. Your world again splits into two parts, and in the one world you will have a girl baby, and in the another parallel universe you would have a boy baby. These timelines will run simultaneously without affecting each other. If you want to meet your self version in another universe, then you need to go back in time at the point of decision, or at the point where the changes were made, and then live on that timeline to meet your self version. So to draw the fifth dimension, all you need to do is just double the number of points that we used to draw the fourth dimension, and join the similar points respectively as shown here in the video, and you will know how would the fifth dimensional space look like. By continuing the same process of doubling the points of a dimension, we can draw the next higher dimension. Although the concept of drawing the next higher dimension is easy, but as you can see here, it becomes more and more complex as we continue. Sixth dimension. A sixth dimensional being has all the powers that a person living in fifth dimension has, along with some extra capabilities. Parallel universes exist also in the sixth dimension. A sixth dimensional being can see all the presents, pasts, and futures of all the parallel universes. But one limitation of the sixth dimension is that all the parallel universes must have the same beginning, or you can say the initial conditions, that is the Big Bang. Like in the fifth dimension, in the sixth dimension also, you are free to choose multiple carriers of your choice, and your multiple versions can live their lives simultaneously in parallel universes. As I already discussed, one problem with the fifth dimension was you cannot meet your self version in another parallel universe directly using shortcuts. But the sixth dimension is free from this limitation. You can easily jump from the timeline of your universe to any point present on the timeline of any parallel universe. Now, I will try to explain this with the same example. Here comes the sixth dimension. In this dimension also, parallel universes exist, and this is, present time and married decision time. But one basic difference between the fifth and the sixth dimension is that if your self version wants to meet your another self version in the parallel universe, you can meet him directly using the shortcut. You need not to go back in time, at this point where the decision was made. So it gives us more flexibility, and in this way you can easily jump from one timeline to another timeline without having any need to go back in time, because shortcuts are possible. So this is more powerful than the fifth dimension. Now we will discuss the seventh dimension. Seventh dimension. Seventh dimension can have infinite number of universes. A seventh dimensional being can have infinite forms of itself and can move from one universe to any other universe. All the powers are possessed by a seventh dimensional being that a sixth dimensional being has. The seventh dimension is free from the limitations of the sixth dimension. The seventh dimensional universes may have originated from different start conditions, and a person living in the seventh dimension can have infinite forms of itself, which are able to move freely between all the infinite number of universes at his will. These infinite number of universes may have originated from different initial conditions, not just the Big Bang. To obtain the seventh dimension from the sixth dimension, all I need to do is just double the number of points that we had in the sixth dimension. Here I am not joining the points as it will make the structure very complex and messy. I am just showing the dots so that you can understand the basic concept of doubling the points to get the next higher dimension. And also for the next higher dimensions, I will not join the points. I will just double the number of points to show you how it works. Eighth dimension. The eighth dimension has a plane of all the possible presents, pasts, and futures for all the infinite number of parallel universes, and all these infinite universes extend up to infinity. String theory says, in the eighth dimension, objects do not have any physical existence. It may be considered analogous to our digital world where we cannot touch the objects but only can see or hear them. They can change shapes, size, and appear or disappear instantly, so it may be somewhat similar to the virtual reality. Ninth dimension. Infinite number of universes exist in the ninth dimension. It is possible for the universes in the ninth dimension to have their own laws of physics and separate conditions and probabilities of their origin. You will be surprised to know that in the ninth dimension, many civilizations or aliens may live simultaneously at the same place. These coexisting civilizations may not see or feel the presence of each other. The ninth dimensional being would have mind-boggling superpowers. That being would be capable of going to any point in time, past, present, or future of any infinite number of universes. He would have no physical form and would be able to move freely in space and time in any of the universes. 10th dimension. The 10th dimensional being would have infinite powers. He would be able to do the things that are beyond our imagination. He would be able to control even the space-time and present in all the infinite number of universes. So what would you call that 10th dimensional being who is infinitely powerful? I think we can call him the God. Some researches also suggest that God lives in the 10th dimension. 11th dimension. Many unanswered questions were arised when the superstring theory was introduced. Therefore, to answer these questions, 11th dimension was proposed by the researchers. We can observe only 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. It's not possible for us to observe higher dimensions, as higher dimensions are compactified or curled up. According to superstring theory, everything in the universe is made up of one-dimensional and infinitely small vibrating loops called strings. Even the subatomic particles are made up of strings, and a unique characteristic of each subatomic particle is because of the manner in which the strings vibrate. It is interesting to note that frequency of vibration of the string is responsible for the mass of the particle. But the string theory does not answer 2 important questions related to strings. These are, number 1, what these tiny strings are made of, and number 2, where they come from. Size of the string is of the order of 10 raised to minus 33 centimeters. This size is unimaginably small. This is many times smaller than the diameter of the nucleus. 10 raised to minus 33 centimeters is actually millionth of a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a centimeter. I know without giving an analogy, our brains cannot understand how small this number is. If we increase the size of an atom up to the size of the observable universe, then the size of the string would be just equal to a tree. My dear friends, this was all about 11 dimensions. I hope I could answer most of your questions regarding dimensions. Your valuable ideas and discussion on dimension is most welcome in the comment section of this video. If you want more details about any dimension, please feel free to write in the comments. I will try my best to create a video on that topic. Friends, if you think that the video was interesting and informative, then please like and share the video. And for more videos, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon so that you don't miss my new videos. And finally, thank you so much for watching this video till the end. See you soon in the next video. Bye bye.